Kavanaugh. Yay, I see your name. Okay, I think we are probably ready to go ahead and get started. Yeah, this is good. I feel like we're having less technical difficulties than we did on our previous meetings, so we're making some progress. Welcome, everybody. It's so good to see all of your faces. I like this format so much better. And a huge thank you to IMAGINiT and Esmail for doing the presentation, and for Gladys to getting us organized, and Matt Conrad for getting us organized and keeping us on track, and setting up the presenters for both our last meeting in July and this meeting. And yeah, this is great. Maybe someday we can meet again in person, but probably not this year. But it's great to see all of your faces. And our next meeting will be in November, and we are going to try to have a board meeting next week or sometime in the coming weeks anyway, so that we can plan whatever our next meeting will be. So it will be a surprise, but I promise we will have a meeting in November. So with all that, I don't have any other announcements. Do you, Matt or Gladys?
I do want to make, I guess, everybody out there aware that if you do have a renewal coming up, Autodesk has a 0% financing promotion for 3 years. So it's like free money for your renewal. This has been the craziest year Autodesk has ever had in terms of licensing changes, and it's very confusing. So if there's I know not everybody's in this BIM manager role, but or at least contract manager role, but if you are and you have questions, give me a call. You know, I can help you, walk you through, you know, the latest set of rules that they are giving us. No offense, John Morgan.
None taken. I sat in your seat for 25 years, so.
But it is it is a crazy time, and you know, we're working through it, and everybody's working through it. But if you do have any questions regarding licensing, feel free to give me a call. Gladys, do you have anything? Nope. I think she's muted.
I'm sorry.
There you go, Matt.
Did you want to add anything?
Thanks, Matt.
You got it.
Okay.
Matthew Kavanaugh, I saw your corona. I have seltzer.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
All right. Sid, what's in your cup? Whiskey?
Brown water, yes.
Daddy juice?
Daddy juice. Much needed daddy juice.
Okay. Well, I guess we better get down to business. So, Esmail, it's all you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good to see you all. I guess, you know, I apologize again. I have my computer docked in the last presentation that I pulled my laptop off of my dock. It just caused me a whole bunch of issues. My, you know, PowerPoint wasn't working anymore, and so on and so forth. But, you know, through the PowerPoint presentation, there's a very recent picture of me. So you'll get a good kind of, I guess, you know, picture view of me. So I guess today what we're going to do is we're going to go through and talk about Clarity. I'm glad that you guys are enjoying, you know, your beer or your daddy juice kind of thing. So feel free to, you know, ask me any questions as I'm going through the presentation. I don't, you know, I don't see myself spending a lot of time on the PowerPoint. What I want to do is just jump in and do a live demo, and then, you know, as you have questions, feel free to, you know, shout them out, and I'm more than happy to answer them. If you do ask me a question and I'm not able to answer, what I will do is I will be more than happy to kind of jot it down and you know, reach back to you privately or offline with an answer once I, you know, just get the answer for you. So just to kind of get a pulse in the room, how many of you guys know about Clarity or what it does? Cool. Awesome. Do you guys have it already? Okay. Cool. No, sounds good. All right. So getting into the PowerPoint presentation, if I can get this to work. There we go. So myself, that's me, very recent picture. Learning golf. This is my first year where I've actually been out there. I'm a senior application expert located in Canada, Western Canada. And my experience, my background is in architecture. I've, studied I graduated as an architectural technical individual, and worked on projects within the residential and commercial and mainly specialized in healthcare projects. I've instructed or taught Revit for many years, 10 to be exact, I believe, at a college. Spoke at user group meetings like this, or big events like RTC before it was called Built. And you've been using BIM since 2006. That's kind of where I wouldn't say BIM. I started with Revit there, and then started expanding my knowledge into BIM and BIM management and administration, and so on and so forth. So I've been dealing with those software for a while, and I joined IMAGINiT earlier this year, before the kind of lockdown. And I spent about 2 weeks in our office in Calgary, and then we've been asked to work from home. So that was another adventure for me. Fun fact: if you are going to play golf, make sure you don't put the tee the way that I have it, because I learned that if you're trying to tee off or you're trying to hit the ball, that thing can go right into your arm. So just an FYI on that end. All right, let me just kind of put this here, and what am I trying to do? Okay, right there. So clarity, why? Do you see yourself, as a BIM manager or a BIM lead within your firm, kind of going through and doing a lot of firefighting, not having enough time to, just kind of go through and think about the strategic, or have enough time to spend planning the strategic direction that your firm wants to go through, or you want your firm to achieve within in an amount of time. The idea behind Clarity, that it's going to make your life better. It says BIM coordinators there, but you know what? Anybody within a project, it will make their life better. And the reason for that is because it's going to eliminate any repetitive tasks that you are going to do. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. There we go. You guys seeing my screen okay? Nothing's kind of glitchy?
Looks good.
All right, awesome. So what does it do? What does Clarity or IMAGINiT Clarity do? It helps with automation. When I say automation, what it's doing is it's taking all those repetitive tasks and it's automating them for you. Things like PDFs, or exporting to NWC on a weekly basis. It's doing that for you. It's running that stuff in the background. You don't need to worry about it. Insights. How many times do you have a project that possibly, and these are just questions that I'm asking, and you on the other end just kind of think about it, right? How many times have you had a project crash a few hours before a deadline, and you've asked yourself, why did it do it, or why did it crash? And the beauty of these insights is it's giving you enough information about your project that you're able to estimate what's happening with your models. And it's not only happening to one project, it's happening to all the projects that you have on Clarity, because it's running those tasks in the background, and it's extracting that information for you. And as a manager that has a very tight time time in schedule, you know, what happens is you can look at that and look at a dashboard and be able to get an understanding of, you know, this model blew up from 150 meg to 300 megs overnight. What's going on? Why did that happen? And then the third part of it is extracting data from your projects, things like data sheets. You're able to look at schedules, edit schedules or reports, and send those edits back to Revit and be able to, you know, your Revit folks to kind of look at them and update those edits as required or as needed. The way that the automation works, and on the right here, there's a very, you know, simple diagram that goes through and it goes through this is a user on a laptop. They could be in the office or they could be, you know, anywhere. All they need to do is have access to a Clarity project, and with their own permissions, what they can do is they can launch a task. That task goes right away to your host, which is typically where your servers are living. And from there, what happens is this task goes to the next available task machine or task computer that is available to pick that task and run it. That task could be, as I mentioned, a PDF task, a DWF, you know, if you're exporting out DWFs, or it could be a DWG task that you're trying to export out to a consultant or a client or whatever the case is. And that's simply how it works. Now, the best part of this is you are just clicking a button and all of this is happening in the background. It doesn't affect your workflow. It's not going to affect the performance on your machine. It doesn't affect any of that because this is happening on a computer in the background that really all it's doing is it's just taking that button you clicked or that task that you launched, and it's taking it and moving ahead with it. Now, and as I go through the live demo, I'm going to show you, you know, an example of that. Getting into the many tasks that Clarity does, there's well over 40 tasks that we've created, and a lot of these tasks just came from folks like you, where we talk to them, and then they would say, "Oh man, you know what? I wish Clarity can do this." And then what we do is we take that and we you know, our dev team takes it and they work on it and make it available in the next release. Now, not everything gets available or, you know, becomes available the next release. However, you know, there's a wish list going on, and within that wish list, the more priority items get you know, worked on more, and that the way that that's kind of figured out or you know, labeled is typically by communicating with our, you know, with our industry partners, and that's how it goes. Now, things that, you know, we can, or Clarity at the moment can process tasks or automate these tasks. So things like PDF, I mentioned multiple times, Kobe, Navisworks, exporting Revit database. When we're looking at model matrix, which, you know, a lot of BIM managers, or, you know, before in my previous job as a you know, manager of design technology, that's kind of what I was looking for, is looking at the data that we have and trying to analyze that data and understand which projects are doing well, which projects are not doing well, and why is it that a certain team, every time they work on a project, there are consequences to those projects. And you know, looking at some of the exchange or management of tasks is looking at, you know, the next slide here, which, you know, there's BIM 360 integration. Having BIM 360 projects, you can, you know, upload models to BIM 360. You can download those models on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, or the new task, which is BIM 360 Migrate, which allows you, if you've worked with C4R in the past, you know that that was a really unstable environment and a very high trust environment. If you want to move your projects from C4R to BIM 360 next generation, you have that now. You can do it by a few clicks by using that BIM 360 migration task, and we'll do it. And you don't have to spend those, you know, long weekends of upgrading projects or moving them from one platform to another platform. Other synchronization formats that we can send to is basically, we can upload or we can publish files to Dropbox, as I mentioned, BIM 360, ProjectWise, SharePoint, and the latest Procore and Google Drive. So those were added just recently to Clarity 2021. From an IT perspective, take control over your backups. You want to run a backup every day, you can do that. You want to run a backup once a week, you can do that. And you can run backups for each project, or what you can do is you can run backups on the server, on a Revit server if that's what you're using, or projects that are on the cloud. You can run backups on those and have a local copy located somewhere on premise. Custom tasks, which are Dynamo tasks, you'll have the ability to run Dynamo tasks on one project or multiple projects in the latest the AutoCAD script, where it allows you to run scripts on your AutoCAD projects. So we're starting to look at ways to integrate Clarity with AutoCAD, although it's a Revit Revit platform. If you think about it that way, it was created for the Revit environment. However, we're starting to look at some of the requests from our customers, and what we're doing is we're starting to integrate that with AutoCAD by running AutoCAD scripts on that. Just to kind of a quick case study here is you're looking at an average of 284 hours per project on an annual basis. Before I joined IMAGINiT, I was a customer of Clarity, IMAGINiT Clarity, and we did a study back in 2006. As I mentioned, I was leading a team of 4 people across multiple studios, and our study was about Clarity, IMAGINiT Clarity, back in 2016. And at that time, we were saving enough hours to have 2 people, 2 full-time employees. Just all they were doing is hitting the print button in Revit, or publishing a model to a certain, either a SharePoint or whatever the case is. Those are the numbers that we had back then. Getting into the way that, the different ways that Clarity can connect to the different on-premise or off-premise servers that you have. Your network files, it takes any of the projects from a network folder, from a Revit server. If you're running that C4R or BIM 360, we still support both of them, or ProjectWise. You have an on-premise server in Clarity, or an on-premise server that runs or has the Clarity software on it. And the way that it works from there is any tasks would go to your task computers, which also are on-premise. We've had conversations around does it make sense to have virtual computer or a physical computer? It really comes down to what your IT individuals are looking at or recommend, and we go from there. Now, our recommendation from IMAGINiT is typically using a physical computer, but from there, what you can do is you can output to, again, network folders, the cloud, Dropbox, SharePoint, so on and so forth. You think about Clarity to be used Clarity being used by non-Revit users, like possibly your project managers that might not be as efficient with Clarity with Revit as a Revit user. Clarity is going to give you the ability for those non-Revit users to be able to go in, stay updated with their projects. Maybe they're heading to a meeting where they need to have the latest PDFs created. What they can do is they can launch that PDF task as they're driving to that meeting, and by the time that they get to the meeting, they have an updated PDF of the latest sync with Central. They'll have it right there. So many ways of using Clarity as a non-Revit user, looking at data sheets, so on and so forth. You have that ability to do that. On the Insights tab, Revit warnings. It's extracting all that data for you and displaying them in one central location. Right? You can think about it as one single source of truth where it has all the information about your project, showing you diagrams about, content matrix or file sizes or so on and so forth. And it will help you optimize the performance of your models by, bringing up or, pointing out issues within your model so you can go in and fix that and move forward with it. Different ways of displaying the data. You can look at single models, by what you see over here on the right, or you can look at graphs, as you can see here on the left side. And if you're a graphical person or you like to read through information, you have the ability here to do so. And also you can extract this information and read it in Power BI or Tableau and be able to get that information that way. Do I feel a question coming? No? Okay. Other ways, what we're starting to do, and release 2021 is starting to focus a lot on that, is the customization of BIM standards. And the way that we look at BIM standards is starting to put configurations for what makes a good model and what doesn't make a good model. For example, what you see here on the right is a diagram where you, or a dialog box where you can go in and you can put in some information about what tolerance do you have for the number of warnings that you would want in a model. Anything up to 100 warnings, that's going to give you a green check mark. So you're kind of scoring the models that you're looking at. Anything that is between 100 and 200 is going to be your yellow kind of check mark to your model. And then anything above 200 is going to be red, which very visually you can look at that information. You'll be able to tell which models might need work, which models are worse than other models, and you have the ability to factor in these are standard numbers, but you might have small projects that you can use the factoration or the factor value down here, where you can multiply it by 2 if it's a larger job, or you can cut it by half if it's a smaller job than the normal jobs that you do. As I mentioned, you can export the data out and explore it in BIM3 or in Power BI or Tableau. I've used both platforms in the past. I enjoyed using with Power BI more than Tableau, just because it's an easier software, but you have the ability to do that and look at that data and be able to make educated decisions on maybe training or the types of models that you have or types of families that you have within those models. And then the last portion of it is looking at data reporting, which is looking at change tracking as you make changes either through Revit or possibly through the Clarity reporting mechanism, and also looking at data sheets. If you don't want to go and spend a lot of money on tools that are out there in the market currently, what you can do is you can use Clarity to extract information from the model or possible not only data information, but also graphical information, display them in a way that you want to see, and you can print those out and use them as data sheets. So just looking at the kind of structure here again, Clarity on the top there, you have your different disciplines, all of your tasks. Basically what it's doing is it's creating one project database for multiple models. So if you're dealing with 10 models, and in every discipline have more than one model, what it's doing is it's taking all that information as you're creating your tasks, as it's starting to extract PDFs or information from those models. What it's doing is it's creating one database that contains that information from all the different models there. Looking again at some of the diagrams that you can extract also from Revit using Clarity to look at information like door locations, the door the door types, or maybe fire rating for those doors, and the types of rooms that you can look at. So, as that non-Revit user, you have the ability to open this on your cell phone, on an iPad, or on your laptop or desktop if you're spending more of your time in the office. And what you can do is you can extract or look at this information as you're going through and getting to a meeting, or possibly being in a meeting. Different information that you can extract out of the models, and we'll go through a live example of this where you can look at either furniture information that is in your model, or you can look at the entire room. You have full flexibility of what you want to look at, how to extract that information out of Revit and display it in your Clarity platform, or your Clarity interface. Let's be strong now and run a demo. All right, let me just kind of get this out of the way. And typically when you open Clarity, you'll see a page like this. Let me know if you guys can see this. Is it lagging at all? Just because of the bandwidth? No, we're good? Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna log in with my username. Typically you'll see this page. This page will probably be the most familiar page to you as a either a Clarity customer, or if you're looking at it for the first time. You'll see this page where you can, at the top here, place your company logo. These tabs here are very important. We'll get into that, where you can look at different aspects of the Clarity service, or the Clarity modules, if you want to think about them that way. On the left hand right here, you have your different projects, so you can tag them if you're looking at 2016 projects, or you want to only see projects that are on the cloud. You have the ability of clicking on this tag and it will filter out by those projects. These are dynamic, but at the same time you can go in and add or customize the way you want to have these tags showing. These are the projects that are existing already on this Clarity interface. And if you want to add a project, it's just right there. Click on that, and then you're in the process of going through and adding a project. You have different ways of looking, or if you want to look at the projects and it's just spinning here. Get a few seconds. So if you, depending on the way that you want to look at your models, if it's a kind of a card perspective, you can see it that way, or if you want to look at them as a detailed group or a list group, you'll have that ability to do that right there. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this project. The demo is going to be, around this project right here. So if you, as I go through it, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So what I did is I clicked on that, and on the image there, the project, and what it did is it pulled me into the project, as you can see over here. So again, nothing Revit related, all you see is information. On the left-hand side right here, these are different tabs that you can access and get to the project there, or get information from the project. Here are the files that are loaded, the different version of them. You'll see with the 2021 release, you'll start seeing the scores on right here. In this case, I'm running this on a 2020.1 Clarity, so I still don't have access to the 2021 one. So eventually I'll have that access. So very simple. As a project manager, I can go up here. I'm going to select a task here, and I'm just going to click on run. That's a PDF task, and it's getting running. So that task is running in the background. Again, it's not affecting my performance, my laptop performance. What's happening is that task is being sent, or it's pinning a task machine in the background, and it's firing up a task, a Revit copy on that machine, and basically going from there. Other things that I can do here is if I go to files, and this is kind of, as a person that's going through and reviewing drawings, what I can do is I can click on PDFs, for example. I know that there are PDFs here, so that's why I'm going to click on that and give it a few seconds here. It's generating the PDF, clicking on different PDFs here. And then if I want to maximize the view here, all I need to do is click on this icon. And then what I'm doing is I'm maximizing the view. Zooming in, looking at this drawing or the this floor plan as you're having a conversation in a meeting or possibly on site. You'll definitely need an internet access to be able to see this, but on your cell phone, you're carrying that everywhere you go. If you want to print it out, you have the ability to print it out and download it. So countless opportunities of having this either offline or right off of the server itself. Also, what I can do is if I just go back to files and I click on the architectural model right here, you'll see there's a PDF folder. If I click on that PDF folder, you'll find all of the PDFs right here. These are, again, tasks that you've run at a certain time. What it's doing is it's storing that information here for you, that if you ever need that information, you can click on this, click on the model or the file itself, and then you'll find the PDFs that you've created. IFCs and DWGs. If you did run that, you have the ability of having them here. The task can also post action these to a certain location, like BIM 360 or a SharePoint. Wherever you want that to exist, it will send the tasks there. Looking at the tasks tab, again, notice that this is the task that I launched. If I click on refresh here, it still didn't get picked up by a task server, but it's still there. It's waiting. It's under the status is new. It's just waiting for a task server to pick it up, and it will move forward with it. Looking at the different tabs here, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll go through a few important ones. Looking at complete tasks, it will go through and it will show you the tasks that been completed and tasks that possibly failed for some reason. And what it will do is, as you're going through and you're looking at the tasks that failed, you can click on this ID right here, and it will give you some information about why this task failed, for example. Again, this is a computer. It's a machine that's running this in the background. And it's creating all this information. In some cases, if there's more information to be picked up from the journal file, what you'll find is you'll find a path here for the journal file. So all you need to do is, if you don't have access to those computers, send it to an IT person or an IT specialist, and they'll get that information for you. Or typically, if you're looking at resolving it yourself, it's giving you the lead of where to find some information to do some review around that task and the reason why it failed. Your task servers, these are different task servers that you're running, or I call them task servers. They're basically task machines, and you have the ability of filtering which task machine wants to work on this on this project. Now, what you can do is you can just leave it the default setting, which is any of the task machines could pick up a task from this project, and then that way you don't need to worry about adjusting this every here and there. Any questions so far? Are you guys good? All right. Okay, getting into things like, if I go up here at the top, matrices, if I get into that, notice over here how we have our graphic information. So if I click on my graphic information, this is where you can go in and customize the way that you want to see your information, see the information that's being extracted from your model. So in this case, you're looking at the different models here, and what you're looking is you're comparing file size for the last 7 days. Now you can go as all times, or you can go as minimal as you want. Now what I'm doing also is I'm comparing all the projects here. You can go and compare a certain project and try to get an understanding of why the file sizes are exploding. Other options that you can do is looking at the Revit warnings. So if I click on Revit warnings, click on view, what it will do is it will go through and obviously look at this. All of this is pretty much good, but which is probably not right. But typically, you know, a good example is to run some of these data exports before you run these tasks. Getting into going back to the all projects option here and clicking on this project right here. One of the things that you can do is, as I showed you also in the within the PowerPoint presentation, is if I click on data sheets here and I just basically go to this room with custom floor plans. If I click on this room with custom floor plans and then at the top here, just pick one of these rooms over here. I'm going to choose the multi-purpose space one, click on view, give it a few seconds. Notice that this is kind of how you're going to be reading the information that's coming from your data sheets information. You have the ability to, you know, print it out, but also this is how you see it. So you have that nice custom view of that floor plan or that room. You're looking at all the information, so what the program area is, what the actual designed area is, and looking at all of the finishes, so on and so forth, that is in this model. Now, the beauty of this is you have this kind of key plan looking at the entire building. So what I can do is from this page, I can switch to other pages by just basically clicking on any of these rooms over here. So if I click on 117, as an example, what it's going to do is it's going to switch me to that room, and now I'm looking at that information within within my my floor plan. It highlights that information there, so it's giving you a good, you know, a good key of where you are in the building, so on and so forth. Again, all of this is, you have the ability to access this through, you know, your laptop, your iPad, or your phone. Getting into the reports, clicking on, you know, possibly a, let's see here, the store schedule. I think everybody likes doors, so let's look at that. So looking at this door schedule right here, so all this information has been extracted from our model. You know, you have your element IDs here, so if you you need to search, or you need to look at, or you know, you need to investigate where this door is located in the model, you have the ability of doing that by, you know, doing the search by ID. But also the beauty of this is you're looking at all this information. Now, as a project manager kind of looking at this, what I want to do is I want to make some edits. You have the ability to go in and edit the data. So you can go in, edit the data. Once you have the data edited, what you can do is you can basically click on upload, and as you click on upload, the update, I apologize for that. So update, what you'll do is you'll see this green kind of highlight within the schedule itself. Now that is sending a request to update that information in the Revit model. All of this is controlled by permissions, so the person on the within the Revit model, they need to have the right permissions to look at that information, say, okay, I accept this, or I grant you the change, and then what happens is the family will update automatically within the Revit model. So so that's kind of, you know, when we say bi-directional information, that's really, or changing or editing information, that's really what we're looking at. Is if somebody does it in Revit, you know, run the data export task, it's populating the information here, but then also what you can do is you can take that and you know, send it out or edit it right in Clarity and deal with it that way. If I get into the tasks tab again and click on set up tasks, which I believe I missed here. If I click on add a task, these are all the tasks that are in this project. So remember, all of this is running at your, you know, the own time, or, you know, a time that you scheduled, or possibly if you want to run them whenever you want, you have the ability to do that. If I click on add a task here, these are the different tasks that I was kind of going through and showing you. So we have the collaboration, the custom tasks, data, synchronization, so on and so forth. Now for custom, the only difference that you'll see on your side, if you do have a copy of Clarity, you know, you're not going to see a lot of these Dynamo tasks here, but you know, if you want those tasks, just feel free to let us know, and we can share some of these with you. Some of these were, you know, just kind of testing them out on projects, and you know, getting that kind of resolved. Or if you have any questions about it, feel free to let us know, and we're more than happy to kind of jump in and help you. There's a team of folks that are you know, Clarity specialists on this. Looking at, you know, the collaboration tasks, or you know, maybe the data export task, which is probably the most important task that you need to run for any project that you want to extract information from. So the Revit database export, if I click on that, it's as simple as anything that is above this line right here is a Clarity setting, and anything below that line is a Revit setting. So what's going to be new to you is this information over here, and getting used to this information. So you know, the target, as in like, how many do you want to run it on, all the models, or do you want to run it on one model, for example, or the priority, how do you want your task machine to look at this in a priority kind of perspective? Do you want it to be a 1, which is a very high priority, or a 10, which means that, you know, make sure that all the other tasks are done before this one is done? Do you want to run it with all the work sets? The frequency of it, do you want it to be on demand? Whenever you want to run it, you can go ahead and run it. Or do you want to schedule it? Or, you know, immediate with synchronizing with Central. Every time somebody syncs with Central, what's going to happen is this database export task is going to run in the background. So you have the ability to choose the different frequency of when you want this to happen. For example, the scheduling part, you can schedule it on a weekly basis, bi-weekly, so on and so forth, or a monthly basis. And if you go on a weekly basis, that means that you're running this task seven times a week at a certain time that you can pick, and you choose what that time is and what time works best for you. What you can do is, if you're getting a lot of projects that are on Clarity, and you don't want to run this task on a weekly basis, what you can do is you can just basically put it on only on change, which means that, again, as individuals open that model, they go into that model, make changes. What's happening is that task is getting, it's going to run at the end of the day, or once those changes are done. Launchable tasks, which populates this list over here. So, if you know that your PM needs a copy of a or a progress or tender packages of a model, what you can do is you can make these all of these launchable, and they'll be listed over here. So what you're doing is you're making the PM's life easier by just clicking on this down arrow, finding the package that they need, clicking on it, clicking run, and then what's happening is that package is running in the background and getting that kind of completed. And then the settings that you're seeing over here, and if one last thing before I move on, is if you want to get an email notification that this task either was processed or failed for whatever reason it is, what you can do is you can say, okay, you know what, as a project coordinator on this, what I want to do is I want to run I do want to see or get an email if this project or if this task fails, or if it completes, I'll just get a task successful kind of email. So depending on the notifications, how engaged with the project you are, you might want to set these up as you go forward. Everything that you see over here is, again, Revit. These are Revit settings. So what I can do is looking at the database export as an option. You can say, I want just minimal database or the minimal information exported, or I want to export as much information as I want. And then you have a tooltip on the side here telling you what that means and what kind of information that you're going to be pulling out. Looking at the different parameters, looking at the quantities, or if you have links, there's a lot of that information there. And then all you have to do is click on the create, and I'm just gonna name this test, and then I'm just gonna click on create, and then now that task will appear in my task tray. So if I just go through here and click on the type and try to find filter by Revit databases, it's right there. Now, what I can do is I can select it and click run over here, and what it will do is it will just basically, that that task was successfully ran. And now if I go back to current tasks, notice that now I have that task and it's running on the 4 different models that I created there. At the top here, just underneath the project name or project title, what you'll do is you'll find the latest, or when was the last database export ran on this project. Now the beauty of this is when you run a database export for a few reasons. One of them is when you're starting to create more tasks on the project, you want Clarity to make life easier for you. And the thing about this is if I go in, for example, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, I'll just kind of show you what I mean by making life simple or easier for you. If I want to go and create a PDF task, I click on that PDF task, and if I'm looking at selecting a certain sheet set, now I can click on that down arrow and I'll have all of the sheet sets that exist in my Revit model. I see them right there. So I'm not making any mistakes, and all I need to do is as a user, add a sheet to a sheet set in Revit, run the database export, or you probably need to sync before you run the database export. And then once you do that, what you're doing is all you need to do is pick one of those sheet sets, or possibly if there's a task that is already created, that when you run that task, it's going to include all the new sheets in that sheet set. So you don't need to go in and do things or duplicate the effort. Set it up once, set it up correctly. You're going to be good to go when the time comes. Any questions at all?
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
And I feel like it's kind of a basic question. Regarding the database export, so I'm kind of questioning why, or I would like to hear, why would you want to do a database export? What does it do? So does it create an Access file or an Excel file? And where does that go? Where is it stored? And then what do you do with that data?
Good question. That's a great question, actually. So when you're running a database export, what it does is it's extracting the information that you have, like things like, for example, very simple example is sheet sets, for example. What it's doing is it's extracting that and it's storing it in the SQL database that you have for every project that you have on Clarity. Every project has a project database and it's storing it there. Now, the beauty of that is if I haven't ran the database export on this project, every time I go in to run or create a task, I don't find the information in my task. So for example, let's say if I go in and click on that PDF task just because it's there and it's probably the simplest thing to use. For example, paper size. I know, or firms that I worked for, what I did is I went through and I customized the paper sizes that fits very well with title blocks. Now, instead of folks going in, the staff that I was working with, instead of them going in and selecting one of these ones that it's not set for my firm, right? These are generic ones. What I can do is I can have ARC B or ARC D, for example, and have a suffix or a prefix that matches my firm, and then they can pick that and they know that that's going to work very well with my title block, for example. Or another good example is print setups. All of this information will be empty when you go through and if you go to create a task without running a database export. This information right here is picking that information from your model, and all you have to do is pick that option and move ahead with. It doesn't store that information as an Excel. It just basically takes that, plugs it into the SQL database. It lives with the project itself, and it's helping you set up tasks much faster. In other cases, I'm trying to think of a good example here because I feel that I didn't convince you with that answer.
Well, it sounds like the database is a specific database for Clarity and for Clarity's use. It's not necessarily a database that we could do something else with. So, for example, I saw something recently about how like the longevity of Revit files as far as archivable files may not be that long, you know, so like if we finish a project now and we just save that Revit file, but we go to open it 10 years from now or 15 years from now, we might not actually be able to. And so one of the things they were saying is you should do a basically like a database export. And there was software that could do that, that would create, it was basically an Access file or an Excel file that somehow saved everything that was your Revit model, and then it allowed you to recreate that model at a later point from that database instead of it being from the actual RVT file.
And that's, yeah, and that, I guess that's, you know, that's one way to deal with it. The other way could be, you know, using Clarity to run a task on, you know, old models and upgrading them to newer models. You know, and you can run it once a year, or, you know, whatever the organization, you know, the organizational direction is. And then that way you can, you're not dealing with a database, you're dealing with an RBT that, you know, if I need that in a you know, very short manner of time, I double click on it and it's right there. I can access it, you know, make it available for team members. But that's kind of one way of how we can deal with it with Clarity, right? But you know, to answer the database question is that, you know, yes, it is more for Clarity to have that information available for you, but also you can access that information through Power BI, or if you know much of SQL. I'm not a SQL expert. I tried to learn it. It's too hard. I think it's not hard. I think I just need to spend a little more time on it. But what you can do is you can access the SQL database itself. It might be a little dangerous to do. I'm not recommending you do it, because if you delete something, it's gone, right? But what you can do is you can run queries there, and you'll be able to extract live data right off of the database that you've compiled, right? So you have that ability there too. The safer way is to do it through Power BI, just because you can't delete anything there. You're just extracting information, but you can do it through SQL as well. Yeah. Any other questions?
I have another separate question, but I can wait until the end because I'm afraid it might get you off track of where you're going.
No,
so
go ahead.
I'll wait.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm very curious about, so you said that it can make changes to an actual Revit model,
yeah.
Or at least push the request of that change to it. Can it also do that for families, or is it only that it can do that for projects?
Oh, good question. I've never done it for families. I am not going to give you an answer for that. I would want to do some testing. I do know that there is a task where you can harvest the families, which means that you can take families from all the models and, you know, locate them in a location where you probably want to, you know, go through them or whatever the case is. Actually, all right. Thinking this through, I got my answer. So when you're looking at doors, for example, this door is loaded in the model, right? So it's part of that model, right? So if I go in and I make a change to, there's two types of changes that, you know, I didn't get into, but, you know, it's possible. So there's two types of changes. One change is an instance change. The other change is basically a type change. So if I go in, notice over here how the types are not changeable, but if I go in and click on edit settings, what I can do is I can switch, or I can create a report that is an instance report, or I can create a report that is a type report, and I can make changes here. Now, as long as that new type exists in the model, what's going to happen is you'll get that change once the Revit user accepts the change. The Revit family would change automatically. Now that change is happening to the project itself. It's not happening globally to your library, for example. unless you have it in a warehouse or you have a storage, a family storage, and you make the changes there, then what you're doing is you're saving the families in that storage location or that warehouse kind of thing. If you're not using a third party thing like a Veil or whatever the case is. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of my question, is if Clarity could actually do the same function as a Veil or Unify, but it sounds like no.
It will harvest the information for you, but it's not going to display it in a way that the other content specialty tools do. We do have I believe within the utilities of Revit, there's a tool that helps with kind of displaying the families. Maybe I can take that offline and show you that tool for sure.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get you too far off track. So.
Getting into model matrix, just again, like there's other tasks that you run. For example, model performance and those kind of tasks. And what they do is they help you extract information around the health of the model. And for example, what you'd start seeing here is you're starting to look at the different names of or the different models that are there. And then within those different models, what you're starting to see is the different colors. And these colors are, as I mentioned, those are customized data that you're inputting, saying that, okay, well, the number of warnings, if it was between 100 and 200, it's going to be yellow. If it's below 100, it's green. And then if it's over 200, it's that red color kind of thing. So visually, you can start looking at these different models that exist within your project, and you're starting to look at the different health status of that. Some of these models right here, there's no data information about it, and the reason for that is because we did not run the task for that information to get that, to extract that. So you can see it in a list kind of application like this, or what you can do is you can go to graphs and you'll see the different tasks here, the different models, the different information that you have, or the different information that you can look at. Again, you can look at it directly here on Clarity, or what you can do is if you choose to take this out to Power BI or Tableau, you can do it that way and look at it that way. Model map, which is really interesting. What it does is one way to kind of realize how many AutoCAD links that you have, or possibly AutoCAD imports. You run as you start extracting the database information, it starts reading this. It starts creating this kind of map for you, and the current model that you're in, if you're connected to different things like different models or AutoCAD files or so on and so forth. So you see that information there, or what you can do is you can filter by that same model. So again, what it's doing is it's showing you as much information possible to help you understand your project better, get enough data around that, and get a good understanding of the data that's happening within your project. Any questions that you guys have, or want? I'm just going to go through here the PowerPoint there, but any curious questions that you guys might have that you want to know if it does or it doesn't? Okay, so let me just go back here to the PowerPoint. And so the way that the solution is primarily what typically, and you probably might have seen this on other presentations or Clarity presentations, but typically the base Clarity comes with, you've got the Clarity software in the task machines, but then there are other modules here. There's a security module if you're using Revit Server between different locations, or possibly different consultants with external folks, which something you probably might not be using. I've had a few of these incidents in the past. folks that didn't want to use the cloud. You know, the integration part of it with ProjectWise, and then also looking at Clarity from the owner perspective, where you can use Clarity to extract information about, you know, building of the building and asset management, so on and so forth, and use it for facility management there. Yeah, so looking at that, if I go to my final slide here, do you guys have any questions? Do you, we finished it a little early, I think, but.
Can you describe the specs needed for the host and the task servers?
Yeah, so it's recommended for the task servers or the task machines to have a machine that is as powerful as a user machine, like the typical desktop that you're having to give your the staff or a Revit user. However, for the server itself, I might have to get you some information around that. It's probably going to be a typical server. There's a lot that goes into play with that. The number of projects that you're probably going to be adding, the size of models. There's a lot of information that that might play into that. But I can get you some information or some, I guess, some recommendations around that information for sure. Anybody else?
I have a question about if you could go back to Clarity. When you were doing demo and you showed, I think it was either under tasks or reports, I'm not sure. There was a drop down where you were able to, maybe it was under reports, but I remember seeing a bunch of things that were an option on this drop down list, and I'm just really curious. I want to see more of what those items were, and it seemed to be things that were related to families.
Oh, okay. I think
that might have been it.
Here, let me check. If I do this here, so for management, there's backups. There is family harvests, model upgrader. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Well, it was something that you showed. I think it was under your number of, like there was the number of warnings, but then there was number of other things that it would show. Maybe it was under reports.
It's actually under here. Let me just do that.
That's the thing I was looking
number
for, I think.
Of families.
Or it's just all of that list. Like I wanted to look at that list a little bit more closely to see all of the things that we could possibly get information about, because that seems the most helpful for me as far as, so basically these are all the things that we can use to rate our own model metrics. So we can say what number, like for example, number of imports, I would want that to be 0. So basically if any project had an AutoCAD import instead of a link, that number of imports would be red. So that would be like a big red flag or something like that. But we can set that up ourselves. We can customize the range, and that's what you were showing us before with the slide.
And the beauty of this is, if you don't want to get into this page every time to see this stuff, what you can do is if I go to project home, is it project home? I can't remember now. Damn. Under matrix, that's where it is. So notice over here under matrix, what you'll do is it gives you a very quick visual, a very quick visual of the different models that are okay. Like anything that's white, for example, is okay if you click on it. Or in this case, the yellow color. If I click on that, it shows me that there is some information here that is running, but then anything that is red, for example, or this pinkish color, if I click on that, what it's doing is it's kind of giving me the different models that are in this project, but also I can dig a little deeper too. So if I want to check out the architectural model, for example, I can click on that, and it's showing me that there's an AutoCAD link. And these colors are pending the settings that you apply to it, right? So in this case, notice over here how with one AutoCAD link we're good. On the warnings we have 0, which I find it a little this might not be reporting right, but that's another discussion. Number of imports we have 182, so that is concerning for sure. Which one right there? And so on and so forth. It gives you a good breakdown of the information that you're extracting out of your model. So if you want to look at all the models or within a project, or you want to look at all the projects within your server, you can definitely go to the matrix tab and look at the current there, and then basically you'll see all that information. You can extract it, look at it, and again, if this is not a viable solution for you looking at it on Clarity, you have that ability to export it out and look at it in BIM or for some reason I say BIM 360 a lot. Maybe I'm doing a lot of demos on that or training, but you can do it in Power BI for sure. Yeah.
Okay. I have another question, but I don't want to hog all of your time. So if somebody else has a question, feel free to step in. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. So my other question, I was wondering if you could show us a little more about the firm standards section and what types of things we can set up there.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, so what I did is I clicked on the metrics and then basically went to firm standards. This is where, as I mentioned, you customize. So basically what you can do is you can put typical sizes here for your model. So anything on the low end is going to be, and this is, it's a global setting. So you make the change once and you have that information there. And it's going to apply for all of the models. So anything that's, 100, 150 or more is going to be considered on the low to medium side. Anything that is high is going to be above 650. Megabytes.
So can you set those numbers different for each of the different categories of?
Yeah. So, and that's the next step that I was kind of going to get into here. So this kind of dialog box, and please let me know if I'm answering a question, because I feel that there's a not. But for here, for example, this dialog box, if I click on the number of warnings and I click on edit, just because it's there, I'm just going to click on the edit option here. Notice how over here, once we added the configuration for the number of warnings, we have the ability of looking at the number of warnings that would keep it under green. And a lot of this, you can go in and change it. So do you want to do it on report only? So as you extract information, what it's doing is it's kind of looking at the report, or do you want to assign it a result here? So in this case, if I go in and say, anything that's 1 to 50 is considered green, and anything that is above 101 is considered red, which is no good. And then you're looking at the factor here, depending on the model size and so on and so forth. So you update this information, you update it once, and this is a global setting. So you're making you're updating it, or you're creating the setting once, but also what's happening is from this point, this is going to get applied to all of the models or all of the projects that you have on Clarity. So it's a global setting. You set it up once, you have it there, and then you go from there. Now, with Clarity 21 or 2021, what you're doing is now you're assigning points to this, and you're putting that score mechanism in place. So if it's green, you're getting the full score. If it's not green, if it's yellow, you're getting half the 30 points or whatever it is, or if it's red, you're losing all your 30 points. So when you're looking at the models, you're seeing a score there for the models, and that score could be a green score, which is good, a yellow score, which is need to look at or need attention, or red, which means that it didn't pass the standards test, basically. Okay.
Okay, I think that helps definitely.
And then you have on the right hand side here, again, the list of items that you have, or the list of information that you can extract. Depending on that information, if I click on separation lines or Revit links, for example, what you can do is you can go in and create a custom marking up or configuration for the links, for example. And it's just a matter of selecting that element. And once you're done with the configuration, you click on add, and now it's part of the data that you're actually extracting.
I think that was the list that I was looking for there. Is there a master list somewhere where you can see all of those things that you have as an
probably
option?
Get that list. Let me just kind of try here. I don't have it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I don't have it on me. Or like I would definitely probably have to get back to you on that.
Or is there a help on the help site? Maybe there. Maybe
yeah,
it's
that's kind of what I was looking at, just to kind of see if I can extract that information for you.
Well, that's okay. I can see if I can find that. But also, if there happened to be something else that we wanted that wasn't on that list, what would be the process? Like, is that something we need to contact you guys about and get your developers to try to build it into the next release of Clarity?
Yeah, well, the conversation's always, we always want to hear back from you as a customer, and if we're missing something, we definitely want to make our product better by adding it. And there's definitely a process that goes in place, and then once that process, if the idea goes through the process and it keeps on going till a wish list or so, we definitely take that and put it in. And it could be just a simple ask that comes to me in an email, or maybe a support question, a support case that comes in and that makes its way to the dev team, and then they start looking at that very seriously, for sure. We do also, and I can get you some information around that, we do have customer calls that happen, I believe, once a year. And what happens is everybody that owns Clarity gets, to listen in on some of the ideas from other clients and so on and so forth. I'm pretty sure you probably might have been part of one of those. If not, let me know, and I can also talk to the dev team and try to get you on that list for sure.
I think if we start using it more, which I would like to do, I definitely have a lot more ideas of how I might want to try to implement this now after your demo tonight. So that's very helpful. Before, I felt like I didn't really know. Like, we've had Clarity and we haven't really used it because I couldn't even think of how or why we would use it. And at least now I have some ideas for that. So that's good.
Well, maybe I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I used Clarity for 5 years before joining IMAGINiT, and I used it in the live in a live environment. When we first purchased Clarity, we were so invested in the automation portion of it, because we did a lot of we did a lot of type of projects, but the larger ones were just killing our time with tasks, repetitive tasks like PDFing and so on and so forth. So what we did is our initial investment was to get Clarity going as an automation, task automation platform, and it helps everybody kind of focus on what they do best, which is design. Then after a few years of having Clarity, and we exhausted the automation portion of it, we started we started getting a little mature with Clarity and started to look at the data that it's kind of containing and it's extracting from our models. And then from the data, and it took us a few, at that time there was only Tableau and it was hard to kind of use, but once we started getting more mature with Clarity, we started looking at the data and how can we utilize the data to make better decisions for not only the models or the model structure kind of moving forward, but also our staff. Where do they need training? How do we target the training that they need? And that could be, family training, or maybe we have so many design options, but nobody's going in deleting them. Well, that's a model management training course right there. And, so a lot of these things we started kind of understanding our staff better, our projects better, and our, I guess if you want to call it, breakdowns a little better, and we started targeting that as improvements moving forward. So, and that's kind of, when I left the firm, that's where we were at, is extracting all that information, semi-live information, because you need to run the task every time and look at that information and start developing these dashboards from, model health dashboards to so on and so forth, and having all that information as a BIM manager at your fingertip is a dream. Anticipating when a model is going to crash before it even crashes. That's another advantage to have as a BIM manager for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to stop talking and ask for any questions.
Can you give us some quick examples of other things we can automate besides PDF creation?
Oh yeah. I'll go to the PDF or the task setup list here, and you'll see, and maybe if I make the screen a little smaller, you'll see them in a much better format. So, collaboration, BIM track, I'm not sure if you guys use that, but that's an issue tracking software. I believe it's used a lot on the north side of the borders, but issue management software that is there. BIM 360, collaboration for Revit, publishing and downloading information. Comparing models, you have Navisworks, publishing to FTP, publishing to disks. The custom ones are basically things that you want to explore, so you would have to add them to your to the list of tasks. Data from model matrix to model review to performance advisors, Revit databases, indexing families, so on and so forth. And then some on the management side, as I mentioned, I'm not sure how many of you guys are using Revit servers, but you can back up a project, you can back up the entire Revit server, depending on what the organizational standard is around backups. Do you need them on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, every night? You have the flexibility of running that on, depending on what you're looking at and what the organization is looking for. Synchronization, again, downloading, uploading to BIM 360. You can download information to a file format, so you can take that information there, and then on the export and print category, you have the different formats here that you can reach out to, or you can automate Clarity to do that for you.
Esmail, do you get a lot of requests to take a model from 2019 to 2020? That's what the model upgrader is, right?
Yeah, it is correct. Yes, saves a lot of time.
Right. That's huge.
Yes, we do have especially for firms that are trying to keep up with the latest and greatest software. They're always looking for efficiencies, and that's one efficiency that we get asked a lot of, on particularly, in July or August when the service pack comes out, I believe. Yeah. So yes, a lot of that. And then one other thing that is, again, I'm running off of the 2021 platform, but if you haven't, if you didn't watch the what's new in 2021, I'll send you a link or I'll send it to Matt, and Matt, you can definitely forward it on. I don't know if I have all of the contacts here, but there is one task that our dev team added this year, and it's the BIM 360 migrate task. And what it does is, if you're working on an external hub or a client, on a hub that you don't own, and you have your models there and so on and so forth, what you can do is you can run a task to take your model off of that hub and place it on your hub for security reasons. What if the other client doesn't want to use BIM 360 anymore? They don't pay for it. They shut down their hub like that, which means that your model might get lost. That the data, you don't have access to your data anymore. Or if you if you were an early adopter of C4R, the classic cloud, I want to call it, and you have a whole bunch of projects there, and it's a lot of time and effort to take those and move them to the new platform, which is BIM 360 Next Gen or BIM 360 Design. What you can do is you can use this task to take them off of the old hub and host them on the new hub and grab all the data with it. So any AutoCAD files that you might have used, all of that information, what you're doing is you're migrating that information from the classic C4R to the new environment, and it's being done it's the right term is it's automated. You don't need to, you're not there, downloading models, uploading models, doing all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that's a good list of all the tasks there.
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you.
For sure.
All right.
All right. Go ahead, Matt.
Is that it, Bethany?
I think so. I was just going to say, if anybody wants AIA learning units for this, we have basically when you had to register for this and put in your name and email address, that will make a list of all the people who attended tonight. And if you want to just let me know if you do want AIA credit, go ahead and email me with your AIA number, and I will just compile the list and send it to the Central Virginia AIA, and they'll send it in so that you guys can get the learning units. So.
Sounds good.
Bethany, I'm going to send you the link to the webcast on what's new in Clarity 2021.
Okay.
That's what you were talking about, Esmail?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on our resources page.
Okay.
What I could do also is I'll send a follow-up email to everybody who was attending tonight and just include links for all of those resources. And we'll have a follow-up survey also, just like we usually do. So I'll include links for all of that stuff in the follow-up email.
All right.
Awesome. You all stay safe there.
Yes. Thank you so much, Esmail. You did a great job.
Yes, thank you so
Thank you all.
much.
Yes, thank you.
So if anybody has any questions or you want to follow up, just let me know. Matt, are you guys not using it, Stantec?
We have it. I'm not using it. It's huge. Perfectly use it. So I don't use it.
Your audio is breaking up a little bit,
Yeah.
Matthew. But I think we got the gist of it.
Not me.
Yeah.
Do you
Gotcha.
want to learn how to use it more?
Talking about Matt?
Matthew, yeah, do you want to learn how to use Clarity more?
I mean, yes and no. There's just too much going on when you think about trying to learn anything
The other thing on my list is Power BI.
I'm use BIM 360 right now. Much less like doing architecture.
You look like you've
He
lost
did say
weight.
something.
I have 15 minutes.
That's awesome. What was the BIM 360 next or NXT or whatever he was talking about?
Next generation. I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Hello?
yeah. What does
Yeah.
that mean, next generation?
Next generation is basically the BIM 360 design, the new platform. Here, am I sharing my screen or no?
No.
Not currently.
I don't see it anymore.
There you go.
Let's see. Do you guys see? Okay, you guys are seeing the right screen. BIM. Actually, I have it right there. So this is, so in the past, I'll basically, so this is the next generation. So this is the new platform for BIM 360 where, you know, you'll have your different projects. It's integrated. Maybe we can, Matt, maybe we can talk about this more in the next one, I guess. But this way, what it is, it's an integrated, or if you think about it, it's a single source of truth where information that are, you know, under, for example, document management, which is one of the modules, you can, you know, use that information, you can extract that, you can mark it up. There's many things that you can do there, and utilize it for, you know, continuing that you know, or taking the data and move it from one stage to the other without losing any data, really, if you think about it that way. So this is, you know, again, this is the new or the next gen BIM 360 next gen, and there's many other modules, like, for example, any of you guys used the cloud before?
They all have BIM 360 design, so, or
Yeah.
most everybody does. So that's nothing new for us.
And this
Exactly.
looks really familiar to me. So I'm thinking maybe this is what we have.
This is.
That's exactly what it is. BIM 360 design gives you access to documentation, document management, and design collaboration. Matt, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it does. And
Okay.
but like this is at least 2 years old. I don't know what the average firm is doing up in Canada, but this was adopted really fast in Virginia.
When COVID hit, you mean?
Well, that helped everything, but some of the firms jumped on it and it became very contagious. Like when now people don't want to give up their seat after their projects are done.
So, and that's the way it went across, I think, across, you know, a lot of firms up here is, you know, with everybody working from home and VPN not working very well with, you know, with Revit models, BIM 360 was the best way to go, you know, with the most efficient way to move forward with. So,
right.
So
yeah.
One of the reasons why I was asking if there was something newer than this even was, and Chris, I'm glad to see that you're still here because I know Cardno, which is a company where Chris works, they are not able to use BIM 360 because it doesn't have the security feature that is needed to work on, is it GSA projects?
Yes, so several different types of projects, and those are one of them.
So, and I know that you had been using Revit Server, and that Revit Server,
Still are. Yeah.
you still are, because it has that level of security that you need.
Right.
So I guess
And I believe BIM 360 is working on getting FedRAMP certified, but we don't know where that even stands. The other solution we're working on is Microsoft Azure, and we should have that up running soon.
I asked some of our IT people about that, and they didn't understand. But ways to make secure cloud for government work. And I didn't understand. But from that main lesson, I asked, and it was a very long answer I didn't understand. But basically, I mean, standard works government all over the world, basically, and high levels of security. And again, it's just technical for me to understand. There are ways to have to happen. Yeah, I don't know those ways.
So you're saying there are ways?
They basically said we do work with the American government, Canadian government, I mean, India, we work with all kinds of governments, and apparently there are ways to secure. I don't know how to explain, but it's actually it's something we can't get around. I don't know what I get around this.
And I've heard of other companies that do GSA and DoD projects and the like, asking for exemptions, and they have allowed them in some cases to use BIM 360.
Oh,
Okay.
Very
But it's
interesting.
good to know if they are working on trying to get it FedRAMP certified. That would be good.
I have an email from Adam Hun from Autodesk, I believe, who basically said they're a little closer than they were. Because like Mason and Hanger in Richmond, their renewal's coming up, and they're like, we don't know if we should renew everything that we got, because if we can't use it, why renew it?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like, what do we do here? And it was basically like, hey, things are in motion, but I can't give you a definitive date on when everything's going to be green lighted.
Mm-hmm.
So, am I muted? No. Okay.
No, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I just did a quick research because I a lot of this I can't remember. So I did a quick search and I found these ones over here, which I was aware of. But as Matt mentioned, they're always like, I get updates to this platform probably once every 2 weeks. So they're definitely putting a lot of efforts on the cloud to get it to, or add new enhancements or security to it for sure.
Okay. But, this does make me think that, maybe for our November meeting, we could do a presentation on BIM 360, because Sid and I have been pretty overwhelmed with a lot of problems and issues, from project corruption. I can't tell you how much time we have spent assisting project teams with all kinds of things, and things that you would think would be basic, they still stump us. And I'm not saying I want an explanation now, but I'm just kind of throwing this out because there are enough of us on here who will make decisions about our next meeting that I think we could talk about, what is the process for uploading your model? What is the process for if you have a consultant model and you want to link it into your project, what does that workflow look like if they are on BIM 360 versus if they are not on BIM 360? And what do you do when you need to archive a model? How do you do that? And, just, we get a lot of questions. I almost feel like I could go back through my past email and Teams messages and just kind of make a big long list of all the questions that we've gotten, and we could formulate a presentation on that. And, I don't know if it's somebody from IMAGINiT that does the presentation, or if we could do it internally, one of us. I don't know.
Somebody from Autodesk could do it,
Oh, that might be good.
Maybe Adam, like I said, Adam Hun, he was directly involved with the BIM manager for Mason and Hanger. And you know, I don't think there's any problem with me copying and pasting the message that he sent their BIM manager. Because all, you know, the majority of their work is from the state, is for the State Department, which has got the highest level of security, I think, out of all the DoD branches. One of them, at least. So.
But
yeah.
I mean, even just like the general use of BIM 360, even for projects that aren't.
Yeah. Okay.
For-
Yeah.
That would be
Sure.
appreciated on my end too, yeah.
On our
Sure.
next, I'm saying for our November presentation. I mean, and I've seen Autodesk has done a bunch of these webinars, and it's just, I don't sign up for them. You know, it's a lot more motivating for it to be a Seville Rug meeting, and you know, even though it would probably be, or maybe we can even get our hands on one of the recordings of one of the ones they've already done, and just, I don't know.
Right. Well, we certainly have. So what I sent you earlier about Clarity is off our resources page. So if you just hit that link and then back out of that, and then you'll find BIM 360. There's a ton of demos that we've recorded, but this is always a better environment when you're one-on-one with the presenter and you can ask specific questions.
Yeah.
So, and if that's kind of what the group would want, I'd be happy to line that up for you.
I think BIM. I think
Usually the Clarity and the BIM 360 guys are the same guys, right, Esmail?
That is correct.
Oh.
So Scott Burke is the guy I usually work with, but
Yeah.
he was on vacation today. But
Yeah,
yes,
Scott
he's also the
Burke.
BIM 360 guy.
What I would really like is a not the money act. Like, you have like a wizard, and you know, this little thing. I mean, nowadays people are getting so much big online games or you know, things jump all around. It's like, hi, what do you want to do? I want to share my model with somebody who's done that 360. Okay, well, let's go through that. You know, some people will take care. What I was doing until it's like 4 or 5 minutes. Other architects started minutes. Some of them taking me, but it's helping me be able to send a memo to Sept. And what I was just doing now with email is like a demo. Because they simple and they don't have that very 60. So before after this meeting, I'm trying to get that to work and all the stuff and everything that assessed me. So I never would have found my way back for whatever it is. It's very complicated. He's on his side. He says, like, I got in there, I can't do it on the cycle operation. I'm like, well, that's because you don't have it in 360. You're supposed to be peaceful over here. But I don't even know how to look for the share folder. So I don't know what on his side because I actually do have 360.
Matthew, you're going to have to.
And it's like, oh, that's easy. And then how do you do it when you didn't know how do you do it?
I can't. He's never talked that much. It's like a Stephen Hawking bad dream.
It's empty.
You're going to have to watch the recording of this presentation, Matthew, so you can hear what your voice sounds like.
It's like you're on auto-tune and we can't, I can't make it out.
I think I only understand like maybe 10% of what you're saying.
That's all right.
I'm not saying I want you to leave. I just, I know we are running really over, but so anyway, let's go ahead and plan on a BIM 360 presentation for November. And
I agree.
Yeah, if you can get Matt, if you can get somebody lined up from Autodesk, that'd be awesome. Or Scott Burt, or
I mean, piece of cake.
Okay.
I would,
or even
for that, I would get one of my guys because I have an avenue just to do that. So.
Okay. And yeah. I feel like not just scratching the surface either, like really getting into the issues that we have on a daily basis as far as like when the rubber hits the road working on a real project. Like And that's why if we can kind of make a list of the things that we want to make sure that they get talked about, that would be great.
Right.
Because I still panic once in a while when somebody like comes to me with an issue and I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea what to do about this. It's just like, I'm the last one on the, Sid, thank goodness, because there have been so many times when I'm like, I don't even know what to do. And
So
I'll
Gladys,
Can I go back?
Gladys, submit the request, please. I can't believe Gladys is still on the call.
I
Poor
know.
thing. She's like, these people are crazy.
Sorry, Gladys.
I hope she has a drink.
Hello.
Yeah, I'll submit the resource request once I get the date locked down.
And I guess if we're going to share the recording of this meeting, we're going to have to cut out the end part.
No, leave it.
Leave it.
Okay.
All right, on that point, I gotta go.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for sticking around. And
Yep, no problem.
this was a good one.
Thank you, everyone.
Good to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Esmail.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you.
Talk to you guys. If you need me, I'll be around tomorrow. I'm off Friday.
Okay.
You're
Sounds
off
good.
Coming up your way.
All right.
All right.
Tubing on the
I know.
James.
What?
Tubing on the James.
If it's tubable.
All right. Well, good luck.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. I don't know how to get off.
Me neither.
I think so. I think I got it.